Every week, we're working hard to give you the latest weather updates, stories from around campus and the Pittsburgh area. RMU Live, Mondays at 3, bringing you the latest news.
Good afternoon and welcome to RMU Live. Today is Monday, February 27th. I'm Ethan Morrison.
And I'm Nathan Brasinger. Here's what's happening now.
Health concerns and fears linger among residents in East Palestine, Ohio, following the toxic train derailment for more than 3 weeks ago.
Now federal teams are conducting health surveys in the area ordered by President Joe Biden, who is also responding to criticism about him not visiting the crash site. Isabel Rosales has the latest.
The cleanup and removal of contaminated soil continues from the site of the train derailment in East Palestine, Ohio, from February 3rd. The U.S. Environmental Agency is assuring residents that all the toxic waste will be disposed of in a, quote, safe and lawful manner at EPA-certified facilities.
One thing that's been made clear to me is that everyone wants this contamination gone from the community. They don't want the worry and they don't want the smell.
A White House official says members of the Federal Emergency Management Agency, EPA, and the CDC began distributing informational flyers and conducting health surveys over the weekend. According to the official, their goal is to reach 400 homes by Monday.
What we need to come to grips with is the idea that more safety metrics, more rules and regulations, and perhaps some laws, and need to be passed quickly.
Last week, the National Transportation Safety Board released its preliminary report on the investigation. It concluded that the wreck was 100% preventable. Meanwhile, President Joe Biden currently has no plans to visit Ohio. On Friday, he defended his administration's response to the crisis.
I had a long meeting with my team and what they're doing. You know, we were there 2 hours after the train went down, 2 hours. And so the idea that we're not engaged is just simply not there.
The EPA is scheduled to hold its next public meeting for residents on March 2nd. I'm Isabel Rosales reporting.
Now, even though federal and state officials have assured residents that it is safe to return to the area, residents have expressed a sense of mistrust or still have questions regarding what they have been exposed to and how exposure will impact their families and communities.
A woman was fatally shot by police on Friday in the St. Clair neighborhood of Pittsburgh. SWAT responded to a suspicious person's report as Adrian Arrington was spotted entering an abandoned home in the area. After arriving to the area, Allegheny County Police stated that Arrington began firing shots at police and then police fired back, killing her. Arrington's cousin, Musa James, told Fox News Digital that her cousin was experiencing a mental breakdown. James continued by saying that she was mourning in the abandoned home, which is where her mother and brother died. James finished by saying that Arrington was not a threat to anyone and only had a gun to protect herself due to the area that the house was located.
On Saturday, a man was killed after a horse-drawn buggy was destroyed after a crash in Mercer County. Dispatchers said that the crash happened on the 400 block of Newcastle and Mercer Road around 5:30 Saturday evening. According to state police, a Ford F-150 XLT rear-ended the buggy, ejecting the driver of the buggy. The driver was 77-year-old Daniel Miller from New Wilmington, and he landed in a field and was pronounced dead at the scene. The two individuals in the motor vehicle were not wearing their seatbelt, but were not injured at the crash. The investigation is ongoing.
At least 2 people were sent to the hospital after a pickup truck crashed along McKnight Road in Ross Township. First responders were sent to the intersection of McKnight Road and Stevens Drive on Sunday around 3:50 p.m. McKnight Road was closed at Babcock Boulevard while crews responded. Southbound lanes were restricted for about an hour.
Dr. Joseph Yanta and his attorney left the Allegheny courtroom silent Friday morning after learning of the charges against Yanta, including DUI vehicular homicide. Yanta is accused of killing his friend and fellow UPMC colleague Doug Roque in a crash on Wexford Bain Road last July. Northern Regional Police Sergeant testified in court that Yanta was driving between 110 and 128 miles per hour at the time of the crash. Police reported that his blood alcohol content was .172 within 2 hours of the crash, which was twice the legal limit. Yanta is due back in court on March 28th.
A mourning community is coming together in Westmoreland County this week after a 6-year-old girl was tragically struck by a car on Friday and killed. While Aria Wozniak was walking towards her school bus stop with her sister, she stepped into a busy road and was hit by a car. The driver immediately stopped to try and perform life-saving CPR. That driver is currently cooperating with police, but the investigation is still ongoing. The community then came together on Sunday as the North Bell Vernon Fire Hall hosted a charity event to raise money. The fire hall played bingo games to raise money and is donating all of the proceeds to the Wozniak's family.
A Pittsburgh public school teacher has an arrest warrant out for him after sexually assaulting a student. James Ziegler, 41, is a teacher at Pittsburgh's Fashions K-5 school. Court documents said that Ziegler allegedly forced the student to perform sex acts during lunch detentions. The suspect is charged with involuntary deviate sexual intercourse, unlawful contact with a minor, sexual assault, institutional sexual assault, indecent assault, endangering the welfare of children, and corruption of minors.
The Moon Township police are asking for the public's help in locating a missing teen. 17-year-old Jay Sean Fountain was reported missing on February 24th. Fountain's guardian last spoke to the teen at 2:45 p.m. while he was leaving the Propel School in Braddock Hills. His backpack was found later in Wilkinsburg. Fountain was last seen wearing a lime green jacket with orange accents with fur along with his Propel uniform. He's known to frequent the Wilkinsburg area and the city of Pittsburgh. When we come back, we will be taking a trip to Urinetown to see how the oppressed people fought for what was right.
And a local radio host celebrates a major milestone when we come back on RMU Live.
Hey, Dad. I need your help asking Jessica to prom.
Of course. Love is like the ocean. You have to tread the
Oh,
waters.
Dad. That's not the kind of help I needed. Hey, Jessica. Will you go to prom with me?
Yes.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care can't wait to share their first with you.
Let me tell you about the toughest guy on earth. He has the crazy strength to lift the man that raised him up without even flinching. This guy, no, this warrior, will always be by his father's side, even if his dad will hardly remember. If this guy isn't the toughest guy on the planet, then I don't know who is. Caregiving is tougher than tough. Find the care guides you need at aarp.org/caregiving.
What do you think you're doing, Kevin?
Was just gonna drive home.
There are several warning signs present that you shouldn't be driving.
Like hearing voices?
Like your text-to-emoji ratio?
Oh man, the selfies.
Selfie, nailed it.
We all have warning signs that let us know that we're probably not okay to drive. Mine is pretending to be your subconscious.
Craig, come on man, let's split a ride home.
Hey, Bobo, do trees tell each other stories?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't know that.
Hey, why don't we go find out? Listen.
Can birds draw pictures?
I don't have an answer for that.
Dad, do stars visit their friends?
Look!
Welcome back to RMU Live. RMU Theater took to the stage this weekend to perform their spring musical, Urinetown. The performance started on Thursday at 7:30 p.m. and ran through the weekend with a Sunday matinee finale at 2 p.m. The director of the musical, Brent Alexander, was able to sit down with RMU Century Media and explain a little bit about why he decided to bring the musical back to RMU for a second time.
I thought that the production was a very good fit for this time. It's not like we don't ever live with tragedy and disaster. I mean, with the recent war in Ukraine that's continuing, the train chemical spill that's happened right down the road here. I mean, there are just countless tragedies that are happening every day. So Urinetown's approach is, okay, let's take on something like an economic disaster and learn to laugh a little. Because in the end, we just have to try and laugh.
Anyone who would like to get involved with RMU Theater can contact Brent Alexander at alexander@rmu.edu.
Last Thursday, people gathered in the Academic Media Center to celebrate Don Luisi's 400th show on RMU Radio. Luisi has been a staple in the AMC as his happy-go-lucky personality can be heard through his Damn Right, I Got the Blues radio show. This live show spans 4 hours as Luisi takes a dive into some classical blues songs. Along with the music, Luisi intermixes his thoughts on the songs. Luisi celebrated by cutting a cake and celebrating with other members of the AMC. Damn Right I Got the Blues airs every Thursday on RMU Radio from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m.
And Nate, there's a lot of big things happening over in the world of sports. RMU basketball, both men's and women's teams are looking to get set in the Barbasol Horizon League tournament.
And our very own Kevin Plaucha is standing right now in the sports studio to take a look at everything RMU sports. Kevin?
Thanks, guys. Well, we'll kick off this week's Colonial action on Tuesday the 21st. The RMU men's basketball team had their biggest game of the regular season as they took on the #1 team in the conference, Youngstown State, riding a 3-game win streak. The Colonials had their best shooting night from the floor all season, appropriately with the biggest student section, shooting 63% en route to a 83-64 upset of the Penguins. Josh Corbin led the Colonials with 19 points and was 5 for 7 from 3. The Colonials took on the 4-25 IUPUI Jaguars next in the final game of the regular season. And, well, IUPUI pulled off the massive upset and snapped RMU's 4-game win streak after an 81-75 win. The Colonials shot just 20% from three-point range, and despite 27 points from Khalil Spear, RMU was upset by the Jaguars. RMU will look to forget about that loss as the postseason is here. They will take on, ironically, the IUPUI Jaguars at the UPMC Event Center tomorrow night, Tuesday at 7 o'clock p.m. in the first round of the aforementioned Horizon League Conference Tournament. The women's basketball team closed out their regular season with a pair of losses. First on Thursday when they lost 83-69 to IUPUI. You would think this is a show about IUPUI for as much as we're talking about them. The Colonials were able to cut the deficit to just 3 points with 8 minutes left before IUPUI went on a 14-0 run and was able to pull away. Phoenix Gideon had 15 points and 9 rebounds in the loss. The Colonials would return home for a Saturday afternoon matchup against Youngstown State, and despite cutting the deficit to just 1 at the end of the third quarter, it would not be enough down the stretch, and RMU would fall 65-51. The Colonials finished 10th in the Horizon League Conference standings and will take on the number 7 seeded Milwaukee Panthers on the road in the first round of the Horizon League tournament, also tomorrow night, but at 8 o'clock p.m. Men's lacrosse was in action twice over the past week, and they continued their winning ways. A 15-6 win over St. Bonaventure at Joe Walton Stadium. David Burr scored 3 goals and had 2 assists. The Colonials would travel to Buffalo, New York next, where they took on Canisius on Sunday and came out with yet another win, this time 13-8, moving them to 3-0 on the year. It was a massive afternoon for grad student attackman Taggart Clark, who had 5 goals. The team is now 3-0, as I mentioned, and returns to Joe Walton Stadium for their next matchup against Hobart on March 4th at noon. Women's lacrosse was also in action, but just once this past week, losing 15-8 to the Bucknell Bison at Joe Walton Stadium. Chelsea Coleman had 4 goals in the loss. RMU softball had 5 games in 3 days as they played in the Low Country Classic in Charleston, South Carolina. The team would win 2 of the 5 games, one against Syracuse 8-6, holding off the Orange's late charge, and one against Charleston, a 4-0 shutout of the Cougars. Now, I know that was a lot, but if you want more on all things RMU sports, you have to check out colonialsportsnetwork.com. The student writers over there have you covered with game previews, recaps, feature stories, podcasts, and more. You can follow them on Twitter at RMU_CSN, on Instagram at Colonial Sports Network, and once again, check out the website colonialsportsnetwork.com. That's all for RMU sports this week in what was a very busy week. Next week will likely be just as busy. Back to Ethan and Nate at the desk.
Thanks, Kevin, for that inside look at RMU sports and two big games tomorrow for RMU athletics. But let's look at today as it's been a little gloomy and rainy outside.
Yes, it has been, Nate, and let's go over to our weatherman, Alex Wolf, for the latest. Alex?
All right, thanks, guys. So today's forecast, we have a high of 50 and a low of 30 with 80% humidity and a 90% chance of precipitation. Looking into later today, currently at 3 p.m., it's 44 degrees and raining. Later at 6 p.m., it is also going to be raining with 45 degrees, and at 9 p.m., 47 degrees. Looking into tomorrow, we're looking at a high of 51, a low of 34. Partly cloudy skies, 67% humidity, and 20% chance of precipitation. Back to you guys at the desk.
Thanks, Alex, for that look at the weather. To stay up to date on all recent Robert Morris events, be sure to check out RMU Century Media. The writers will have a recap of the musical Urinetown, and also the news team is keeping an eye on the ongoing developments from the train derailment in East Palestine, Ohio. Be sure to check out all the latest on RMUCenturyMedia.com.
And are you looking to check out some other RMU TV shows? Then be sure to check out a wide variety of shows, including Sports Talk in the Berg, Wednesdays at 5 p.m., RMU Backstage, and the Bobby Moe Game Show alternating on Thursdays at 5, Colonial Sports Center on Thursdays at 9:30, and finally RMU Focus on noon every Friday. All live streams are live and archived on the RMU TV YouTube channel. And when we come back, there are many different events happening on campus this week as the Black Student Union and the Massey Center for Entrepreneurship and Innovation are hosting a night of fellowship, networking, and delicious food for their Black History Month trivia. Also, the Office of Residence Life is hosting a special Black History Month event highlighting different history in celebration while gaining more awareness on Black excellence in Hopwood Hall at 6:30.
On Tuesday, students can join Reverend Herb Tillman as he returns to campus for his presentation, Unleashing the Power of Your Potential, Isolation versus Aloneness. The event will take place in the chapel from 4:30 to 5:45 p.m. on Wednesday, March 1st. Students can join the Strong Women, Strong Girls organization for a spin class in honor of Women's History Month. Students can ride from 12:30 to 1:30 p.m.
When we come back, we'll look into a parasite infection and how the world looks to attack and deal with it.
And we will have the latest on the COVID numbers in PA and at Robert Morris when we return here on RMU Live.
Roll over. Chance high five. All right. When you adopt a shelter pet, you discover all the things that make them unique. And your mother and... I am totally a hat person. Right, guys? Thanks for being honest. They're a little bit of a lot of things, but they're all pure love. Adopt pure love at theshelterpetproject.org.
Multiple studies have shown that marijuana can slow both driver reaction and response time, which can be really dangerous. He's here. He's here. Wait. What? I can't drive. Why? My. Oh.
STEM is precise, no margin for error.
Dare to forget that. Dare to have fun with it. Get weird with it. Dare to send those old STEM theories flying past the neighbor's house into outer space. Dare to program something internet-breaking, record-breaking. Dare to blow their minds. Dare to learn the difference between sedimentary and metamorphic rock. Go find those rocks. Dare to keep daring. Dare to STEM. Check out She Can STEM to get started.
Former President Jimmy Carter remains in hospice care, choosing to spend his remaining days at home with his family.
But the 98-year-old will leave behind a legacy filled with service to those in need. And it includes helping to nearly eradicate a parasitic disease that plagues some of the poorest countries in the world. In today's Health Minute, Mandy Gaither has more on guinea worm disease and where the world stands in the fight against it.
It's a parasitic disease that barely exists anymore, thanks in part to work done by this former president.
We were driving along and at elementary school, children had a big sign that says, "Watch out, guinea worm, here comes Jimmy Carter." That was almost as good as a Nobel Prize for me.
In the 1980s, Carter decided to lead the effort to rid the world of guinea worm, which at the time infected about 3.5 million people As of 2022, there are 13 cases, according to preliminary totals from the Carter Center. Guinea worm disease is caused by a parasite which infects humans and animals when they drink unfiltered water contaminated with microscopic water fleas. People infected have no symptoms for about a year, then begin to feel sick with a slight fever, itchy rash, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, and dizziness. Then a painful blister develops and the worm breaks through the skin, which comes with a host of other health complications. While the death rate is low, disability is common.
The fact that we know where the disease exists now, we know what medicines or treatment can be effective, and we can actually prove how many still are there that have this problem, and we can prove what causes success. And that proof, I think, makes it much more likely that the effort will continue after I'm no longer president.
For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
Now, in addition to raising money and awareness about guinea worm disease, the Carter Center set up village-based surveillance, educated the public about how the parasitic spreads, distributed larvicides, helped provide support for the creation of clean new wells, and handed out cloth-based water filters to those in need.
The U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention is warning people about the rising threat of a drug-resistant bacteria. CDC officials say the bacteria is called Shigella, and infections from it can cause a fever, abdominal cramping, and other serious stomach problems. While typically shigellosis affects young children, the CDC says it has started to see more of the antimicrobial resistant infections in adult populations. Those populations include men who have sex with men, people experiencing homelessness, international travelers, and people living with HIV. The CDC says there are limited antimicrobial treatments available for these particular drug-resistant strains.
A rare brain condition has been linked to a Pfizer vaccine for respiratory syncytial virus. That, according to the U.S. Federal Drug and Administration, which found that 2 people who received the RSV vaccine were later diagnosed with Guillain-Barré syndrome. RSV is a highly contagious virus that causes flu-like illness in people of all ages that increases in severity with age. The cases were confirmed in 2 adults in their 60s who were among 20,000 vaccine recipients in the Pfizer's Phase 3 clinical trial. One person's illness had completely resolved after 3 months. Another was improving after 6 months, and there were no Guillain-Barré cases among people who didn't receive the shot. Guillain-Barré syndrome leads to muscle weakness and sometimes paralysis, as it causes the immune system to attack its own nerves, although most people recover completely. Some cases can be fatal or have lasting effects. It attacks up to 3 of 100,000 adults ages 60 over each year. The U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention says the disease is responsible for an estimated 177,000 hospitalizations and 14,000 deaths per year among adults age 65 or older currently. There are no vaccines approved for immunizations against RSV in either children or adults.
As COVID-19 still impacts the United States and local areas, let's take a look at the updated COVID-19 numbers. Now, the current weekly numbers in the United States show over 200,000 cases along with 2,400 deaths. Currently, the overall cases in Pennsylvania include 2,800,000 and 50,000 deaths. And now at RMU, there are currently 1 student in isolation along with 1 employee.
When we come back, Kevin Plaucha is back in the sports studio to give us a look at the national sports landscape.
And Alex Wolf is back in the weather studio to take a look and tell us about what the temperatures will look like over the next 5 days. Stay tuned here on RMU Live.
If you need to do something to feel okay to drive, you're not okay to drive. Don't drive buzzed.
Maybe you can make retirement happen. After all, you made her college years happen. Opening that education savings account when she was little. Spearheading a campus tour. And another, and another, and another, and another. Bam! Deciphering financial aid. She was like, what? But now she's like, you aced planning for college. Now get the tips you need to get on track at aceyourretirement.org.
Jason, let's go see your room.
That's not right. How is it? Is it good?
Things could be stranger, but I don't know how. I'm going through changes now. Could spend a lifetime trying to figure it out. I'm going through changes, through all of the strangeness. I'm going through changes now.
Welcome back to RMU Live. Kevin Plaucha is back in the sports studio to give us a look at the national sports.
Thanks, guys. Well, we'll once again kick things off where we started the last time I was in the sports studio, and that would be at the Peterson Event Center, where the magical season just keeps continuing for the Pitt Panthers men's basketball team. The Panthers had a little trouble with Georgia Tech early on before pulling away in the latter stages Tuesday night to an 8-point victory over the Yellow Jackets. Nellie Cummings had a team-high 22 points along with 6 rebounds and 7 assists. The Panthers went 19 of 20 from the free throw line in the win. Following that, Pitt took on the Syracuse Orange in a highly anticipated matchup after Syracuse head coach Jim Boeheim made comments about the Panthers, quote, buying a team, end quote, a few weeks ago. The Peterson Event Center was sold out, and the Oakland Zoo was rocking, and Pitt would crush the Orange, winning 99-82 in a game that saw Pitt attempt 41 threes. Blake Hinson led the way with 22 points. 6 Panthers ended in double figures on Senior Day. The Panthers now sit 21-8 overall and 14-4 in ACC conference play and are in sole possession of number 1 in the conference thanks to losses from Virginia and Miami. If Pitt beats Notre Dame on Wednesday, the Panthers clinch at least a share of the regular season ACC championship, and the Panthers finally got ranked. They are number 25 in the newest edition of the AP poll. If you told me this back in November, I would have called you crazy. In other news, the MLB is back in action as spring training has officially kicked off. The Pirates fell 9-7 in their first Grapefruit League game of the season on Saturday to the Toronto Blue Jays. Rodolfo Castro hit the first home run of the season for the Pirates, and it just so happened to be a grand slam. It is also the debut of the MLB pitch clock with mixed reviews, which is looking to shorten MLB games. The teams are still getting used to the pitch clock, but from what people have seen in the short time it has been involved, the time of games has been significantly shortened. Some other loose ends to tie up from the week include Portland Trail Blazers guard Damian Lillard had a career-high 71 points, including 13 made threes, tying Cavaliers guard Donovan Mitchell for the most points scored by an NBA player this season. In other general college basketball news, it was buzzer beaters galore. Iowa women's basketball junior guard Caitlin Clark hit a three-pointer at the buzzer to take down number 2 Indiana. On the men's side, Desmond Cambridge Jr. hit a half-court buzzer beater as Arizona State took down in-state rival top 10 team Arizona. Florida State beat aforementioned Miami on a buzzer beater by Matthew Cleveland, helping Pitt get to number 1 in the ACC. Indiana men's basketball completed the season sweep of top 5 Purdue, and Virginia went 0-2 this week. Finally, conference tournaments kick off today with the Atlantic Sun Conference Tournament. Bellarmine takes on North Florida, and Florida Gulf Coast takes on Queens tonight at 7 o'clock p.m. The official countdown to March Madness is on. I think that just about wraps up everything both in Pittsburgh and national sports. If you thought this was a busy week, just wait till the month of March when the real action begins. Let's send it back to the desk with Ethan and Nate.
Thank you, Kevin, for that. Now let's send it over to Alex, who has a look at our 5-day forecast. Alex?
All right, so on Wednesday, we're looking at sunny skies, a high of 66, low of 32. Cloudy on Thursday with a high of 54, a low of 35. On Friday, we're going to see some snow with a high of 37, a low of 31. Saturday, it's going to be cloudy with a high of 38, a low of 29. And Sunday is going to be sunny with a high of 42 and a low of 24. Back to you guys at the desk.
Thank you, Alex, for that. For Ethan Morrison, I've been Nathan Bryce here. Thanks for tuning in to RMU Live.